I don't care what anyone says. I'm tired of the narrative. I'm tired of hearing that Nikola Jokic doesn't care about basketball. I'm tired of hearing that he only cares about his horses and his family. It's just not true. Nikola's as hungry to be the best as any superstar in the NBA. Now, there is one thing that I do agree with. Nikola Jokic loves Serbia. If there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that the Serbian center wasn't happy about missing last year's World Cup after winning his first championship with the Denver Nuggets. His season ended too late to join the team. One of the few downfalls of winning a championship. But now, he's had the time to rest before the most important basketball tournament in the world starts. When the Nuggets fell to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs, the season was over for the Joker. And from what we've seen, it didn't take long for him to return home to do, well, you already know what I'm talking about. But what people haven't realized is that Jokic has had more time to prepare mentally and physically for the World Cup. Serbia, additionally, actually has an enormous amount of talent in their roster beyond the three-time MVP. It should be remembered that the Serbian national team was the runner-up in the last World Cup, which was only beaten by Germany in a final that they just couldn't win. The team has a special chemistry, and this was demonstrated in an exceptional result that they got without their best player. That foundation is the hardest thing to achieve in a national team that barely plays a dozen games a year as a team. However, if there is one thing we know, it's that Jokic is a player capable of making his teammates better. It's true that the FIBA style of play is very different from the NBA, and that brings problems for some of the best players. But not for a player who's been trained in a FIBA basketball environment. Before coming to the NBA, Jokic had already mastered the rules of European basketball. I mean, he's already proven that he's capable of overachieving while leading Serbia. In the 2023 European qualifiers, Jokic averaged 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists in the 2 games he played.
Carrying the ball all the way through as well, volleying basketball.
And in the previous year's Eurobasket in 2022, he averaged 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists per game.
From Davidovac, passes out to the double team. Guduric takes a dribble. 3-point.
It's also important to note that assists aren't counted in the same way in FIBA as in the NBA. In FIBA, it's actually much more difficult to get an assist because of the rules that recognize them. But the Joker had a good run until the Eurobasket playoffs, where they did fall surprisingly and prematurely to Italy by 8 points. Even in the previous World Cup 2019, where Jokic didn't average some stellar numbers, but he did help Serbia to finish the tournament as the 5th best national team in the whole world. But nothing further from the truth. The team has great players in all positions. Bogdan Bogdanovic showed great leadership skills in the last World Cup, averaging 19 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals per game in just 28 minutes of play. His splits, 52, 45, and 85. With a huge volume, Bogdan showed why at 31 years old he's one of the most valuable assets of the Atlanta Hawks. A guard with tremendous handles, capable of creating his shot from any position, and of course a sharpshooter. Jokic basically has his own version of Jamal Murray on the Serbian team, who will have to be at its best if they want to challenge for the gold medal.
Bogdanovic from the left, oh boy, that is a dagger!
There'll also be his almost namesake, Nikola Jokic. Although he struggled to get into Spoelstra's regular season rotations with the Heat, injuries made room for him at the end of the season. Jokic was also an important player in the playoffs, where he averaged more than 20 minutes a night in the first round against the Boston Celtics. A player who already proved his importance in Serbia, being the 3rd highest scorer of the entire roster during the last World Cup. The second leading scorer is another player who appears on the provisional list of Svetislav Pesic for Paris 2024. Nikola Milutinov is that rare center who was drafted in the first round of the draft in 2015, but has never played a game in the NBA. This season, he's shown dominance in Olympiacos, one of the best teams in Europe, where he's averaged 12 points and 7 rebounds during the season. Similar averages to those he achieved in the last World Cup, where he was the 2nd most important player for the Serbian team.
Joe Payne coming in for the double team. Moves up, goes baseline and throws it down early on.
Other players who are likely to repeat the tournament are Ognjen Dobric, the 6'7" center who's played this year for Virtus Bologna in the Italian league, and who offers a very complete profile besides having experience in the World Cup. Marko Guduric, the 6'6" guard who this season has averaged 9 points in 21 minutes for Fenerbahce. Another shooter and great overall scorer who averaged 8 points in 17 minutes in the last World Cup, shooting guard superstar Vanja Markovic, who this season has averaged 11.5 points for Baskonia in the Spanish league, while shooting almost 40% from the three-point line. Aleksej Pokachevsky, who despite not being a success in the NBA, offers a 6'11" guard that can come in handy in certain contexts. Filip Petrusev, who got to play 3 games in the NBA this season after being drafted in the second round of 2023. And although he won't have many minutes due to the presence of Jokic and Milutinov, he offers a quality backup from the bench. Or Dusan Ristic, the 7-footer who this season averaged 7 points in 11 minutes in the Spanish league. And finally, Alexa Avramovic, the 6'4" guard who's had a great season in Partizan, also appears on Pesic's list. But beyond the players who are already available, the novelty is that Serbia has a huge pool of talent who were not at last year's tournament. Not only without Jokic, but without other key players, Serbia was able to reach the World Cup final. The most important, apart from the NBA MVP, was surely Vasilija Micic. The guard tried his luck this season with the Thunder after being the EuroLeague MVP in 2021. And while it's true that he didn't get many playing minutes in Oklahoma, he did so eventually in Charlotte when they traded for him. The team's injuries allowed him to have increased minutes, and he's averaged 11 points and 6 assists per game in just 27 minutes of play in his 30 games with the Hornets. Now, I know that as an NBA player he doesn't look that interesting, but Micic knows all the intricacies of European basketball, and his presence will certainly be noticed in Serbia's game. Finally, Vladimir Lucic's season at Bayern has allowed him to enter Pesic's pre-list. But he's one of those names that could be cut from the team before the tournament starts. Since Serbia became independent from Yugoslavia in the early 1990s, the team's always shown an incredible ability to win. Their resume includes such successes as 2 gold medals and 2 silver medals at the World Cup, 3 gold, 2 silver, and 1 bronze medals at Eurobasket, and another 2 silver medals at the Olympic Games, including one at Rio de Janeiro in 2016. But we're probably talking about the best team Serbia is going to send to an international tournament in the country's history. And yeah, we've previously mentioned how dominant they were in the 90s. Vlade Divac, Predrag Danilovic, Aleksandar Dordevic, Peja Stojakovic. It's completely true that they've always been capable of exporting players to the NBA with ease. And this year it looked like they were going to place Nikola Jokic in one of the first positions of the draft before a serious injury. But they've never had a player as dominant as Nikola Jokic. They've never had a player that you can be sure is the best player on the planet. So expectations are very high, but so is the ceiling of an unrepeatable team. And it's normal that the Serbian fans are expecting a medal considering that they have one of the most dominant players of the tournament, but they have to take advantage of their window. At 29 years old, this will most likely be the second last Olympic Games of Nikola's career. I mean, do you really think he's going to be around 37? Maybe. But with a generational talent in the roster, Serbia has a chance to surprise everyone and fight for the gold. An easy mission? Hell no.